SQL playlist episode number 1. So in this video series, I'm going to talk about my new playlist and also why SQL is important. Okay. So as you know, in every IT organization across the hierarchy in the sense of everybody who is working in IT organization some way or other way, or at one point in time or multiple times in a day, they might have at least used the SQL in their professional experience. Structured query language, whether it is you know developer or whether it is a director even, right? So okay, and even today, I mean, and they have to instantly look at some data, right? So they might have read only access and then try to access the data, right? So in this video, I'm going to touch upon uh, what are all the different SQL variants are available. I mean, basic remains the same, but there they comes in one way or you know other forms, basically, right? And also, I'm going to introduce the entire playlist today. So with respect to the introduction of my playlist is like I'm going to cover almost all interview related questions people ask, right, in interviews, right? So the query related questions we are going to create will take one RDBMS, right, MS SQL Server RDBMS, and install the RDBMS in our local machine and try to create OLTP database and OLAP database. And on top of that, we are going to create, or we are going to execute different SQL operations. We will create small database from as we progress, and then we'll try to create different queries and some other database concepts also in between I'm going to cover. Okay, so that we can understand what is what is running or what is executing behind the scene, right? So in that way, that will be a long lasting memory for everybody, so that easily we can learn and we can remember for longer time, right? So I was talking about the different variants are coming in our future or maybe on the way as we progress, right? So to so earlier, from the inception, so like when the database system started, earlier we used to maintain the data into let's say in Excel spreadsheet, right? So because the data grown in on daily basis, data is growing. So to address that growing database, we came up with the approach of RDMS, Relation Database Management System, and there are other database management system like graph related or tree related database management system, and also the key value pair or document based database systems are also available. So our emphasis on this video is going no, this playlist is going to be touch upon the relation database management system, which is extensively used actually across the organizations, or from the small startup for fintech or other legacy IT organizations, right? The older IT organizations like 40-year 50-year old IT organization like banking and insurance sector and other many others, right? So and so I was talking about the different variants depending upon the context, depending upon to address the different specific requirement of the people, right? So when we started using the SDFS, right, Hadoop systems, then we created the Hive tables, right? To address that, we came across with the Hive query language, right? So it is also somewhere related to structured query language. So there will be a small syntax difference and the context of uses, but the basic remains same. So, so with respect to HiveQL, right? So if you learn the structured query language, it's not difficult to switch over to the Hive QL actually. So whenever you need to work with the Hive tables, it's easy to work with actually if you know the structured query language, right? Then the Spark SQL to address the computation power, to efficiently process the query, you know, then we had Spark Engine, right? Spark Engine came into picture, and therein also a structured query language, and it is also works on the data sets because they are also organized in the, rows and column. So the thing is like RDBMS is organized in the rows and columns basically, and then the new SQL came into picture, like which is a RDBMS, RDBMS, there is a concept called to maintain the integrity and reliability. There is a concept of ACID, right? Atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. So RDBMS is a very very reliable database, and its reference integrity is maintained in RDBMS, wherein in most SQL database like unstructured database, so there is a lack of structuredness or the lack of schema. So but the scalability is very high basically in NoSQL, because you don't have to maintain the schema. We don't have to maintain the schema while writing the data. Therefore, it is very, very scalable. As the data comes in, we just dump the data into the database, right? Then there is a custom query language, KQL. So in the cloud ecosystem, right? The Azure. So we maintain the custom query language also works upon the rows and column based database. There will be tables and databases like similarly as RDBMS, but this is with respect to the Azure cloud. So there will be a little bit of syntax difference, but the basic remains same. So the structured query language concept can be used in KQL as well. So why I took these terminologies, and I want to make the SQL relevant all across the time from the inception, is because we will see the importance of SQL, right? Once you learn the sequels, and you can work in any other emerging technologies, and also the coming technologies in future. So and also this is for Azure and the particular. So when you talk about the DynamoDB databases, which is native to the AWS cloud environment to maintain the to maintain the NoSQL database, is a particular language, right? So therein you can use the particular. This is also similar to the structured query language. Basically, if you know the structured language, you try to learn the context and try to learn the structure of the DynamoDB and try to use them particular, right? Then there is another concept with respect to cloud also. There is a federated queries. So federated queries is your data is placed at the heterogeneous places, right? And different places basically. So let's say I'm talking about I'm running the queries in the Redshift environment, Redshift cluster, but my data is placed in RDS, relation data database system in AWS, and also some of the data my placed in S3 bucket, and some of the data is maybe in DynamoDB. So if I have to run the query at the Redshift cluster, I could be executing while creating the links from the AWS Redshift cluster to the different other services, and I can run the query, and I can that is called a federated query, right? My query is can be executed on the data which are placed at the various places, different places. So this is some concept related to emerging concepts, which is related to the structured query language basically. So who are the people? Next, we talking about who are the people in the organization they use the SQL. So first of all, SQL developer. Obviously, I mean this is the starting, right. Whenever we start our career, right, in the professional career, the SQL developer, they start using the query language. It's very very handy. Okay, DBA, those who create the database, do maintain the database, and provide the service with respect to the any database in the organization. So those database system administrator, they will do the they will use this query language actually. And then database developer when writing the store procedure and other functions and triggers, those people will start using the structured query language. Then the data analyst, those who have to analyze the data based sitting in the RDBMS, right? They have to they need to know the structured query language so that they can work upon the data which is placed in the database management system. And then there is a business analyst who are the people bridges the gap between the developer and the business user. So they are the people who has to execute it at some point in time or maybe on a daily basis the structured query language. Then there are data engineers who are writing the Python programs. They works on machine learning and deep learning. The people data scientists and all. So right, they also need to know the structured query language. Because the query language comes or start coming in some or way or another, right? Maybe if you work in pandas and numpy also, some way the syntax will be useful, right? The business operations analysts, those the people who are helping the business user to generate the report and to support the report or try to create the manual reports, right? Sometimes whenever the reporting happens incorrectly, so these are the people who try to use the SQL structure. They have to use this at some point in time to the data they have to extract at least the selection they need. The operational engineer, right? They all and the sales managers who need to know the sales, and the today's time there are reporting capabilities, like there are tools which are directly provide the reports basically on click on, right? So but in the background the things are running in the SQL basis, right? Product manager, pricing manager, those pricing manager, the people who decide the prices depending upon the context or depending upon the geographical location. So these are the people who use the across the hierarchies, in any IT organization or any other commercial space, people use SQL. Then huge demand basically, because I said, right, the Spark, NoSQL, HighSQL. So there are things on the way, and also in the today's times. So basically it's a huge demand. So it's easy to use because it's an easy to understand, and it helps, and logic is very very simple. This is a procedural language, not an object oriented language. Okay, so it's easy to learn and it is extensively used. So it's a good to know this, and open source, easy to learn. So I was talking about, right, we will install the database management system in our local machine and then try to create the different database management system. Okay, databases, OLTP or OLAP database, and then we can try to learn actually the syntax and the context of the requirement, and try to run the different queries. So with that, like so this is the kind of introduction. And if I talk about some statistics, compiled by the Stack Overflow organization. So while usage of the RDBS management system, database management system like MySQL is on top of it, the 55 say 2020 2020 statistics actually. So MySQL was the extensively used database management system, like Meta and Uber. Those big organizations use the MySQL. Then there is a PostgreSQL just behind 36.1%. Oracle stands like here 16.5%. So, IBM DB2, like these are the. So what is the common in here? SQL. So if you know the SQL, you can work upon any the database, like with a little bit of syntax difference and all. Therefore, it's very very important to know the SQL. And if you talk about the performance or the efficiency of the database engine, so this is the statistics of the 2020 by compiled by Stack Overflow, right? So Oracle is being the highest, high performing database management system basically. So the legacy organizations who are working in IT space from the inception or from the longer time period, they try to use the these databases actually: Oracle, MySQL, or MS SQL Server, PostgreSQL servers. These are the main database management system. Then it comes to the NoSQL database management system like MongoDB. Okay, and now I was so with that, thank you so much. Please subscribe my channel, and we are going to see this will make the SQL playlist is very relevant and with respect to the ab initio interview question. Okay, and very useful, basically a very handy, hands-on actually is very important, so that the things can be remain in our mind for a longer time. Thank you so much.